we're back in the studio. We're going to be talking with Heather Shirey, who is a speech therapist in outpatient therapy. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us all about what happens in speech therapy. I understand this is the month that we celebrate hearing and speech.
That's exactly right. This is our national month to educate people about speech language pathology and audiology.
Okay. You have the floor. Tell us all about it.
Well, I am a speech pathologist that has been with Erickson for almost 20 years.
Really?
And I currently work in both outpatient and Garden Ridge here at Green Spring.
And what does it exactly entail?
Well, speech therapy has a lot of different levels. We work with people that have had communication problems from strokes. So we work with aphasia, praxia, swallowing problems. I also work in memory impairment. So we work with people who have cognitive deficits from different neurological conditions. I also work on voice. I do the Lee Silverman voice therapy here.
What is that?
The Lee Silverman voice therapy. It's a wonderful program for voice. It started out as an opportunity for people who have Parkinson's disease to be able to improve their voice pronunciation and volume and projection of their voice. So we do that as well, mainly in outpatient. And then hearing loss. I also work with people who have challenges with communication based on hearing loss, and especially those that have new hearing aids, to do some oral rehabilitation. So a lot of different things that I can do.
Okay. Sounds fascinating.
It is. It's a great field to be in.
Okay. And if someone feels they need some help in this field, how would they go about it?
I can only see individuals with a referral from the doctor. So if there's an area that you recognize or your family recognizes as a need, just to communicate that to your doctor, and they can then send the referral over to outpatient, and we can schedule them there.
Can you go into some of the details about how you do this?
Absolutely. Which area do you want to talk about?
I don't know much about any of it, so any of it, I think.
I think most of my caseload is primarily now with cognition. We work a lot in the areas of memory, orientation, problem solving, assisting with transitions, helping with education for family members about those areas. So in most cases, I'll see somebody in outpatient, depending on how we do on some assessment tools that help me decide the areas that we can address. Sometimes I'll have family come in, and I'll plan most of the sessions with education for them as well. Let's say there's some concerns with short-term memory. We might work on some exercises for that. We might work on some ways to compensate for that.
So can you give an example?
One area that we work a lot in is working on repetition and using that as a way to remember new names or information that we want to remember if we don't have a chance to write it down.
Just repeating it.
Just using that repetition technique. There's some other exercises that you can do as well. We go through those. Sometimes we'll go into some websites that people enjoy doing on their own, and starting kind of a home exercise program as well to help with speed and mental processing, helping with the memory, helping with orientation. Could be any of those areas that someone feels they need some assistance with.
Okay. So how did you end up getting into this field?
I started out as a physical therapy major. And I was home over Christmas break doing some volunteer work at a local hospital, and we had a woman who had a stroke. And at the time, my mom was working as a speech assistant in the school system. So I came home and I said, Mom, I had this really interesting lady today that I worked with. And so we talked through that a little bit, and she said, well, why don't you do a little bit more research and see what you think? And so I actually went back the next semester and I changed my major.
To speech therapy.
Into speech therapy. And I've enjoyed it ever since.
Well, interesting. I guess I would didn't even think about speech therapy as being that involved.
Especially with people who have had strokes. There's a lot of different levels of communication that are affected. If it's someone that has a stroke on the left side of the brain, we tend to see a lot more language problems. So they may have trouble with every aspect of language, their reading, their writing, their speech, their ability to comprehend. However, people with a stroke on the right side of the brain tend to have more cognitive problems and swallowing problems.
Okay.
But to throw it off even a little bit more depends on if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Okay.
So let's say if I had a stroke, I'm left-handed, and it was a right brain stroke, I may actually have language problems.
Right.
So it just depends on what the needs are, and we focus on those needs.
Okay. So now, where is your office?
I work primarily in Garden Ridge,
Okay.
but then we have the other office in Outpatient as well.
Oh, okay, down
Hunters
at Hunters
Crossing.
Crossing. Okay.
Right.
So is there anything else you can tell us? Where did you get your training?
I did my graduate work at James Madison University, which was close to home for me. And I did my undergraduate work at East Carolina University in North Carolina. Many, many years ago. It's changed a lot since then.
Yes, yes, we all have.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you have you can tell us about what's going on this week? Anything special?
Well, at any time, if someone's interested in having just a memory screening, feel free to call the outpatient department. We can definitely sign you up for a quick 15-minute screening. I'm also available for any questions that you might have related to communication, swallowing, hearing loss, and oral rehabilitation.
Now, can that little 15-minute be done without the doctor's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that can be done without
So if
the
you
doctor's
have something
referral.
that you think maybe needs to be looked at,
Yes.
you can check it out and then see.
Absolutely. Just call down to Outpatient and say, I'd like to see Heather for a quick memory screening, and I can definitely do that for them.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a lot of people who say, well, I just can't remember, you know, like I used to, who may be a little concerned about which direction it's going.
And if you're starting to notice those changes, it may be forgetting names, maybe just misplacing things more frequently than you used to, that would be the time to come in, because we don't want to lose that window of opportunity to learn some exercises and ways to compensate now so that we can maintain that level and not have a drastic change in the future. So that would be my one recommendation. Don't wait long. If you're noticing those changes, talk to your doctor so that we can get you in and do a personalized plan for you.
That sounds like something that people need to think about, perhaps. That rather than waiting until your kids say, hey, you've forgotten everything, you know. Yeah,
Exactly.
Just get an evaluation and see what's going on.
And the other part of that is hearing.
Okay.
If you're someone that's noticing some changes with your hearing, that's a good time to go in and have your hearing tested, because that hearing loss can make the cognitive piece seem worse than it really is.
Oh, yes.
So we want to make sure
miss
that you're well aided so that those cognitive concerns aren't there.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Heather.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what this, we're going to do a little film on the shining star. So these people are the ones who give us so much extra help and sort of are those very special people that maybe don't get recognized as often.